Hi everyone, it's Niamh here and welcome to my art journaling page. Today we're going to be playing with scribble sticks to create a face, or drawing a face with scribble sticks. Scribble sticks are a crayon pigment based stick that are obviously very pigmented. Now I don't use them very often. They are water soluble. And I've sort of stayed, while I use them a little bit, I haven't used them very much. But on this page, I decided I wanted to use them as my main colouring image. This is a bit of a use it up page from a previous paint I had left over my palette where I had the turquoise. So I had that on there, and it just so happened that it was sort of spaced out. There was eye shape. So I drew in an eye shape, and then I thought, oh, what can I use to colour in the background? So I grabbed my scribble sticks down and started to draw, and you can see I'm being really scribbly. I obviously had the eyes sort of where I wanted them, but everything else I'm sort of drawing as I go in around. And I think this has been easier because I had those eyes there to begin with. Quite often when you're drawing faces, so certainly for me, while I'm drawing the eye shapes, I don't actually put in the detail of the eyes until later, and even though those eyes aren't particularly detailed, but it's got more detail in it than I would usually have in my eyes. And it did make it easier to work because I was working with a face shape the whole time, as opposed to when I usually work and it's very abstract until the very end when I put the eyes in. So it is something I would consider doing in the future, possibly. I was really enjoying how this went together with all those scribbly lines. It just, for one of my faces, it seems to just have that more depth than when I've done it before, particularly with paint, because I'm being really carefree with how I'm putting down the colours. One of the things I did learn with my scribble sticks is I need to press down quite hard. You can see I'm holding it quite close and really sort of rubbing it in together. I think one of the good things about how this page worked out was I was actually working directly over the top of the craft. So I didn't have any, well, apart from that little pop of turquoise on the page, I didn't really have any slick surface to try and fight against. It was just going down on the craft, which has got a little bit of a rough surface. So I was getting a really great amount of pigment down on the page as I was working, which I was really loving. The other thing is that the colours layer over the top of each other really well. So you can see I'm sort of putting those lights and white colours over the top, and they're staying on top of those colours. They're not blending in, they're not rubbing together as if I was using an oil pastel or so on. Each of the colours stays separate and stays true to itself. Once I'd sort of done as much as I could to the face, then I put in the hair, because I really hate drawing hair. I really struggle with it, so most everyone ends up with sort of a manic pixie cut. That's relatively easy to do. In some ways I wish I'd left the hair, because it just sort of unbalanced the whole issue, and I'm not sure if it's because I just chose to do green hair or how I put it on. It was actually looking quite good, and then suddenly I put the hair on and it started to look flat again. So that was a little bit disappointing. However, when you start to put in pupils, and as you can see, as soon as you put more detail into the eyes, it sort of starts to fix things up a little bit. So with my black Stabilo oil pencil, now I'm just going in and adding those final details. I do find there is a black in the scribble stick sets. You can sharpen them, but I've not been very successful with doing that, and I blunt them very quickly because obviously I'm pushing on them quite heavily. So I do find that I will always go back to my Stabilo oil pencil, just in the fact that I can sharpen it to a nice point and get nice thin lines with what I'm working with. I still need to learn how to do eyebrows. Can you tell I don't pencil my eyebrows in because I've got caterpillars? So I'm a bit heavy-handed with them, and I don't have them going in the right direction. But that's okay. Learning process. So once I'd sort of put in the detail I wanted to on the page, then I started to think about what I wanted to do in the background, and I wasn't 100% sure. The other thing I put in were my eyelashes, and I found I get a better curve on my eyelashes if I actually turn my page upside down. So if you are able to do that, that might work for you. Then with my white Stabilo oil pencil, I'm just going in and adding some extra detail as well. Again, more because of the fineness of the pencil and the fact I can sharpen it up than the use the white, because you can see here, I can't get my words out today. I'm actually using the white scribble stick in the background. So it does go on very white, but it's quite not coarse, but because of the width of the scribble stick itself is quite wide. Once I've done that, now I'm going in with a little bit of a shadow color. So I'm just using a deeper blue. I'm just using my finger or a wet wipe possibly. Can't see what's in my hand, just to blend it together a little bit. And I was really happy with how this came together. It was very quick, but it was very satisfying to do. Final thing that I decided to do was to pop a quote onto my page, and I decided to write all over the image. So one thing I did find though was my paint pen, partly because it was dying, but also because the scribble sticks are slightly waxy. So I found my paint pen wasn't necessarily going over the top of a completely scribble sticked page very well. The main reason for that was because I was using my fine paint pen. I think if I used a broader tip it would be fine, but because it's a fine one, it sort of wants to dig into the surface a little bit, and that was a bit tricky. So when I'd finished that, I then went in with my white pencil and popped a little bit of a drop shadow. Again, this wasn't quite as obvious, I suppose, as if I had used a white paint pen, but I presumed that the white thin paint pen would do the same as my black pen. And with my success with gel pens, I wasn't even going to attempt trying to use a gel pen over the top of this too. So sometimes you do have to adjust what you would usually use if you start using different materials, but that's part of the learning process. I know that now, so the next time I'm going to do a completely scribble sticked face, I won't use my paint pens on it. You can see here though how much detail and interest you can get just by sort of scribbling over the background to create that face, and it's such a freeing process to do. If you don't have scribble sticks, just try with ordinary crayons, with Neo color crayons, with your distress crayon, like anything, just have a go. It's just lots of fun. Get your fingers in there, blend it through, and until next time, bye for now.